Hey, back again for another episode. Welcome back to my channel, A Storied World, where we do all things fiction. Fiction books, books made into movies, that sort of thing. And right now I am reading, if you watched my last video, if you haven't, please do. But right now I am getting ready to read Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And it's one of the books that I got from the trip that I went to the bookstore a couple weeks ago. And it's a New York Times bestseller. I've said this before. I like to read indie author books because I'm an indie author and I like to support indie authors. Having said that, I also love books. I don't care if it's traditionally published. I don't care if it's indie published. If it's a good book, it's a good book. So today, this was a Reese's book club. So if you love Reese Witherspoon and you value her opinion, then this was in her book club. She really liked it, which means also that it may end up being a movie. Maybe it's in the works already. Generally, the movies that she produces comes from, or at least a lot of them come from her book clubs. So you never know. I mean, that could be kind of exciting. So I've been doing romance as of late, and primarily because I'm dipping my pen into romance writing. My preferred genre is, or at least what I am known for, are mystery, suspense, supernatural. I love supernatural. It always comes into that. I always play into the supernatural. However, this is it says, how do you stop a murder after it's already happened? I mean, that just stops me cold right there. I'm like, wait, what? So let me read the blurb. Can you stop a murder that's already happened? I would think time travel, right? So late October, after midnight, you're waiting up for your 18-year-old son. He's past curfew. As you watch from the window, he emerges and you realize he isn't alone. He's walking toward a man and he's armed. You can't believe it when you see him do it. Your funny, happy teenage son, he kills a stranger right there on the street outside your house. You don't know who, you don't know why. You only know your son is now in custody, his future shattered. That night you fall asleep in despair. All is lost until you wake and it's yesterday. And then you wake again and it's the day before yesterday. Every morning you wake up a day earlier, another day before the murder, with another chance to stop it. Somewhere in the past lies an answer, the trigger for this crime, and you don't have a choice but to find it. Okay, this is an amazing concept. I've seen something similar, like one with Sandra Bullock, and I cannot remember the name of that movie to save my life. It's like she is married and she's kind of going through the motions of her marriage, and then he dies, and then she's distraught. She wakes up and it's like a week before or something like that. I cannot remember the name of this movie. And every time she wakes up, it's at a different time. Like, she could be in the future, she could be in the past, she could be right in the present at the funeral. It's really, I guess it's strange to say the least, but it's really mind-blowing, and I loved it. It was super, super well done, and I really, really appreciated that. So this reminds me of that, and I really, really like that. I can't wait to read it. I'm like, I want a good, like, cerebral experience. I want to really guess, and I want to really work at this and, like, figure this out. So Gillian McAllister, apparently she's been writing for a really, really long time, graduated with an English degree. She worked and was working as a lawyer, lives in England. She now writes full time, which is super cool. And she's able to support herself, which is pretty rare. She is the New York Times and Sunday Times bestselling author of the Reese's Book Club pick, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and 6 other novels. So she has 5 others other than this, which is really great. So if you are interested in checking her out and checking this book out and reading it along with me, GillianMcAllister.com. She's on Facebook, she's on Insta, and she's on X. So this is just something to kind of, if you're interested in reading it along with me, I cannot wait to get started. we'll see what happens. So hang on tight. I'll be back in a jiffy. Okay, so I'm about halfway done with Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And it's really, really good. It's spectacular. So we have really, there's three main people. I mean, there's really one. This mother that basically sees her son kill somebody late one night. And basically it's at the time of around Halloween. And her son has just turned 18, maybe a few months before. And she's noticed that he's withdrawn. And for the last probably a few months. But she's been so busy with her own life that she hasn't paid as much attention to him as she probably would have liked. And so there's the mom, then you've got Kelly, the father, who seems to be rather laid back and very much in love with his wife and kind of just works with his hands and fixes things and doesn't like to travel much or anything like that. Just seems to be a very humble person, makes her laugh, and they have a wonderful romantic history together, and they still love one another even after like 20 years together. And so you have this nice dynamic going on there. And then you've got the son that you see kill. But the most interesting thing to me is that she sees this. She's obviously devastated. She doesn't understand, and her son just basically gives himself up to the police. And you're like, why would you do that? Like, she's a lawyer herself, and but she's not a criminal lawyer, and she's saying, don't say anything. And yet he does. Yes, I killed this person. And she's like, what is going on? I don't understand. So the premise of the book, again, is that she wakes up, she goes to sleep with this heart. She wakes up and she goes to sleep on a sofa. And then she wakes up in her bed and she thinks, oh, well, my husband must have brought me here and that sort of thing. So she goes about like anybody would. You'd go about your regular day's business. And then she notices that the night before all this happened, she had carved this pumpkin. And then she realizes, where's the pumpkin? And then she finds the pumpkin, and then it's like, why isn't it carved? I carved this, didn't I? So it's this whole head game of, I'm losing my mind. And of course, she's horrified because she hears something up above the kitchen, which is her son's room. And she's thinking her husband's there, searching through his room, figuring out what happened. And it wasn't, it was her son. And so you can imagine her shock when she comes face to face with her son. And he's supposed to be in prison, and she's like, why are you here? And he's like, are you crazy? Kind of thing, like, have you lost your mind? So it devolves from there, and each day she's waking up basically the day before even that. So it's T-2, T-3, T-4, and so on and so forth. So I'm halfway through with the book, and there are interesting little tidbits too. So there are just chapters here and there where it comes from a young police officer's point of view. His name is Ryan, and he is 23. His background is that he had a brother, much older brother, in crime. So his brother meant well, he says, and yet it sounded pretty bad, the crime that this older brother was involved in. And so he and his mother just kind of struggled to get by, even though his brother was, bringing home money, and they didn't know how, and they didn't ask questions. But it kind of gave the spark, made him want to be something different. And so he basically, long story short, becomes a police officer. So he's a brand new police officer. So we see a couple of chapters from his point of view. So it breaks up some of this, I wouldn't call it monotony because it's not. It just breaks up the narrative a little bit. It's a little jarring at first, like, oh, his point of view. Okay. I like it. I really enjoy it. I don't know. I haven't read many books that do that. I've read a lot of books that go from one person's point of view, and the next chapter is another person's point of view, and the next chapter is yet another person's point of view, and you kind of go on from there and you kind of rotate. That's pretty common. I've never read a book where you go so many chapters in and then all of a sudden you have somebody else's point of view. So I do appreciate it. I love it. I love how it's unfolding, and I won't give too many spoilers there. I will say that if it continues the way it is, it's going to be one of my all-time favorites. I really enjoy it. It makes me want to write one like that. I generally write in the murder mystery. I always seem to put paranormal in there. I can't not put it in there for some reason. I love the paranormal. So it's just kind of paranormal mystery. There are people that read my books and they consider them cozy, and there are other people that read them, and as I progress, it's less cozy. So, and it's just a paranormal mystery. Unfortunately, there aren't that many specific genres that I can necessarily put it into. And that's always been a difficult point for me to figure out where my books fall. I research these things, and then apparently I'm wrong, even though I spend hours and hours and hours researching these things. So I don't know. You tell me. If you ever read one of my books, please, I'm all ears. This one is definitely what I would call a suspense, bordering on thriller. And I think she lists it as a thriller. So, yeah, I agree. It's really a great book. So I'm really excited to get back to it. And I'm wondering if she has more to read, because I'll buy them. Anyway, so I'm going to get back to reading. Okay, so I finished the book by Gillian McAllister called Wrong Place, Wrong Time. And it really is a terrific book. I would recommend it to pretty much anybody that loves even time travel, because it is time travel to a certain degree. And it poses great questions about how time travel really would work, and it really goes much deeper than that into personal relationships and how we question ourselves, especially as mothers. And I really appreciate that. It's a very well written book. It's a long book for me. I'm used to shorter page books, and so but it really hammers the point home about time travel, our choices in life, and how those choices impact what happens to us later on in life. Something as insignificant as a chance encounter 20, 30 years ago can basically cause this massive fork in the road, schism, however you want to say it. I'm not thinking right today, because I've actually thrown my back out. So I've had time to read, though. And for anybody that's out there that doesn't understand my background, I have chronic fatigue and autoimmune diseases, and I still write. I find the time to write pretty much every day, and I try and read something every day. That's just in a nutshell who I am. My pen name is Katie Upton, and I do write my own mystery books, and I am getting into young adult romance because I've always wanted to try it. Anyway, but that's beside the point. But forgive me for kind of losing my train of thought today. It is what it is. It's life, right? And yet I can see the parallels in this book that, you know, the choices I made and have made in my life have led me to this point, even to throwing my back out, trying to work out so hard, and knowing that I pushed my limits when I shouldn't. And that's something that spoonies out there all over the world will understand. Yet it's fascinating to really think about. And I wanted a cerebral read, and I got one. I really like to sit back and think about life and to think about how I got to where I have gotten. And this particular character looks back on her life as a mother and not being the mother that she thought her son really needed. And, you know, it really goes into that. And there's a lot of mom guilt out there in the world. And if you're a mom, you completely understand without me having to go into any of that. So it is important to, at times, I think, sit back and really delve into our lives and the choices that we've made. And I really appreciated that. And I know she's written other books. I don't know if they're this time warp kind of thing where this traumatic event happens and then she goes to sleep and she wakes up and it's the day before. And then she goes to sleep and it's the day before that, minus 2 days, then minus 3 days and 4 days. And eventually she starts skipping a lot, like even months, even to years. And it's amazing because in this, it's like, am I in the same body? Am I in the same time? If I go back 20 years, am I going to look like I'm, 60 if it's 20 years ago? And she has to figure all this stuff out. And she has some people that help her along the way. It's a very lonely experience for her. And that's an interesting concept to think about too. If you're stuck in a time loop, how does that work? Are you the type of person that would handle that well? I don't think anybody would really handle that well, to be perfectly blunt. But again, it gets the brain cells and the neurons firing, the synaptic gaps firing, and to really think about, wow, if I was in that situation, or a time loop at all. I love the movie Groundhog Day, and it was mentioned in the book, and I love that movie. And when I saw it years ago, I would think, well, if I'm in that situation, I mean, because you see all the emotions that Bill Murray goes through just over and over and over. He repeats the same day over and over again until basically he gets it right. And you can see how he progresses in that movie. And he, you think, oh, he's getting it because he's getting further and further into getting Annie McDowell's character to go out on a date with him. And then it gets longer and longer into the date, and where it's like an all day thing. And then it explodes on him, and then it starts to get worse. And he's just like, oh, wow. If you haven't seen the movie Groundhog Day, you really should, with Bill Murray and Andy McDowell. It's fantastic. For me, I just absolutely love it. And it resonates. It's another one of those time loops that, makes you think, well, how would you react? What would you do? Could you figure it out on your own, or would you just continue to keep going back in time? And are you stuck then? I mean, what if you get stuck in this time loop and you just keep reliving days and never move on? What would you do? What if you couldn't figure it out? It just gets you thinking. And I really appreciate those types of books. I am now reading more of the YA, like Jenny Han, that sort of thing, to get my feet wet into the genre. However, I'm looking at my stack of books right now. I will get back to my stack, and I think the next one that I will read is probably Confessions of a Grammar Queen. For this, I will read that next out of my stack of books. Now, I will continue to read things like The Summer Turned Pretty, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and the Walter Boys, those sorts of things like Kim Novak and Jenny Han and those sorts of books. Again, if you have any books that you'd like for me to read and you think I'd like and you'd like to hear discussed, then send it to me, and I'd love to read them, and I'd love to at least send me the titles. You don't have to send me the books. Send me the titles and I will get to that. I'd also like to know what you'd like to kind of go over in this vlog, and or to hear, like if you want to hear more behind the scenes of an author's life, especially an author with certain disabilities and things like that, and or if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of some of my characters and how I go through that, please just send me an email, give me a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this so I can, obviously keep doing this. But I enjoy it. So, this is just a lot of fun and it's something that I can do and relax and do. So that's pretty much it for this episode. And again, if you have any suggestions for books or genres of books, I'm all ears. I love to read. I hope you do too. And for now, happy reading.